Hello, it's Victoria from Coastal Themes, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you some Framer essentials in under 25 minutes. So if you've never used Framer before, if you're just getting started on Framer, this is a great place to start to see what the essentials are, essential skills you need to know, some tools around the interface, and just taking you through the interface generally. So this is my workspace. This is what it looks like when I log in, and I can see here that I have my projects, I have archives, and then in between I have folders, so you can create new folders. And to move things into these folders, you can just hit the three dots on a new project, hit move, and move it into a project folder. So now when I go to this project folder, you can see this project is now here. Other things here are your account settings and community and so on, so you can explore those in your own time. So we're going to jump into this project. This is based off our Newport theme, available for purchase, links in the description. And this is one of our agency themes. Super cool, super flexible. We have a few home pages for you to choose from and other pages. I won't dive into them now. I'm sure we will dive into them in the future. So looking at the Framer kind of interface, you can see on the left hand side we have our pages. So these are individual pages. So think about your normal website. You have your home page, you have your about page, you have contact, you have 404, you have privacy, you have terms, and so on. So your pages sit here, but you can also toggle between pages, between layers. So now when I start clicking into a page and clicking into individual stacks and containers, which we will dive into shortly, you can see here, similar to Figma, if you use Figma, even Photoshop, if you're used to Photoshop, layers are quite a common pattern that we see on these platforms. Everything's organized into layers and you can see each individual element. And this is a great way just to singularly target a single element that you need to be editing. Additionally, you can drag and drop layers around and mess up and improve your designs in a few easy clicks. So there's quite a fine line. If you accidentally drag and drop things elsewhere, can change your design very, very drastically. So be careful when dragging fully fledged designs around, because you might not know where it returned to. So what you also need to know is that you can undo and redo on Framer. So on my Mac it is Command Z, so if I delete this, I've made an error, hit Command Z and it's back. So you can also, I usually use the help panel at the top here, but you can search undo, and undo sits in the edit, and undo and redo. So you can do that there. On Windows, I will pop the undo redo shortcuts in the description below. So there are loads of obviously keyboard shortcuts which you can use with Framer, and we will cover that in a separate video in the future for sure. So those are your layers, and you can see when you're in a particular page, you can toggle between the pages here directly from the layers panel without clicking back to the pages tab. So we're in home, and you can see we have separate different stacks going on. I'm calling these stacks, they are just containers which have layouts applied to them. So you can see it's large desktop, tablet, and phone, and these are our responsive designs. So I'm going to create a new file, and we're going to see that when you create a new file, Framer likes to prompt you with some sample page layouts where you can add these. So if I add a new homepage, landing page, it will do this and give me a desktop, a tablet, and a mobile breakpoint. But if you are starting from scratch like so, to add new breakpoints, you simply click on the desktop frame, hit plus, and you can select tablet, which is pre-made for you, and phone, which is also done for you. So now any element you put on desktop, you can see what I'm about to start saying. Any element you drop in on desktop will automatically exist on tablet and on phone, and you'll see this, the spacing and the sizing is a bit out of whack, kind of falls off the page. It's because each additional breakpoint is editable independently from the desktop. So if I change things on tablet and on phone, it won't change desktop, but if I change desktop, it will change tablet and phone. So just beware of that linking and how that works. You're also able to add custom breakpoints. So if I hit this plus icon, you can see the only breakpoint left, which I haven't used, is custom, and I can call this tiny phone, whatever you like to call it, and make it 200, and that will drop at the end. So whatever it is that you're designing, tiny phone hopefully doesn't exist. And you can add custom breakpoints at any size. So Excel desktop, we'll make that with 2000, and that will drop in, and then you can drag and drop these as you wish. However, anything you change on desktop will still change any other breakpoints, again, regardless of the size. So I've created a large desktop. Just because it's the largest one doesn't mean it controls everything else. It all stems from this core desktop. So let's delete this. And then finally we have assets. So assets are your kind of pre-made styles and your components and any code snippets that you have. So we jump into components in a different video, but these are great ways to reuse elements that you design. And so here, if I click on this text, I can right click on it and click create component. I'll name it text, and then it will automatically redirect me to the component now sitting in our component library. So this is under assets. So now if I change this, if I change the styling of this component to be red, and I head back home, you can see that this now purple outlined component and purple on my layers is now red. But often you're able to override certain things on components. And in order to do that, you go back to the component, you can hit plus, and you can create variable, and that will allow you to edit this particular feature when you go back to your design. So I've named this is called color. The default color is red. So I'll hit enter, exit, and if I go back home, now you can see when I click on the element in the layer of the file, color is now editable. So I can control this myself instead of having to edit the component directly. So this just gives you a bit of flexibility. So that's anything with the plus icon on the left you can create a variable for. So a variable is something that can be changed in your design files. And then next we'll look at the panel at the top. So we have this plus icon. Plus icon is basically to add different sections, pages, navigations, pre-created things that Framer gives us. So we looked at adding a new page, which is your landing page. You can add a type of navigation, and you can see here that this navigation has been placed below everything else. You can move this up, and this is happening because this page is arranged in a stack. So stacks are basically, if you're familiar with CSS, you might be familiar with Flex, and stacks are basically top to bottom organized flex boxes. So the direction here of this desktop is top to bottom. You can also make it horizontal, and everything will be organized horizontally. So you can see that vertical arrangement is suited to pages, keeping everything kind of organized nicely. So this comes under layout. If I remove this layout, I'm able to just drag things around as and where I'd like them. This is now positioned absolutely, everything has absolute positioning, but as soon as I apply a layout, these things become relatively positioned to the page they are sitting in. So I can also change the spacing, I can change the alignment, I can change the gap between elements. See here we had 0, but I can drag it up and it's just giving a bit more space. I can also adjust the padding, which is the spacing around these elements. So I can give a global padding of 24, so now you can see from all these elements there's padding of 24. So we'll look at stacks in different setups, but often pages are arranged with a stacked direction of vertical. So if I head over to our theme, you can see this desktop has a stack, vertical direction, it's aligned in the center, there's no gaps between elements, and there's no padding. So I can click on my hero section and I can, there we go, and I can use my arrow keys, or I can drag it to move it around on the page wherever I'd like it. And that is the benefit of stacks. So let's head back here. The next thing we're going to look at is CMS. So CMS stands for Content Management System. And if you've used WordPress, if you've used any blogging platform, you might be familiar with the term CMS, but it's basically a way to manage content. So typically, and what Framer usually implies, is that it's for a blog, although you could make it for portfolio posts, any sort of content that you want to manage directly without having to adjust the designs. So I can add a new blog, and that will create a new CMS collection. So you have now been directed to the CMS page. So if we head back, we're on our homepage. You can see this icon here with these stacked circles is our CMS icon. So if I click in here, you can see I'm back on this page, and you can see my CMS collection. So a collection is a group of posts. So you can see this automatically gives me some default posts to look at, and you can see when we click in how it's structured. So I'll click into this first post, starting and growing a career in web design. And you can see here it is a normal kind of editor style. So it has a title, it has a slug, which is what goes at the end of your URL. It has a date, which is the date you've posted, an image, which is usually a header image, but you can pull this image into your designs as you need, and content, which is a usual kind of WYSIWYG kind of editor. So we are also able to customize the fields. If I click these three dots and click edit fields, you can see those fields are listed here, but I can add more. I can add a color so that the user can associate a color to this particular post. I can add plain text, which has no structure applied to it. I can add formatted text, which is what we just saw, so you can organize things into paragraphs. You can add spacing, you can style the text, make it bold, add pull quotes, add bullet points, so that's formatted text. You can add toggles. You can add files, you can link files. You can do so many things. So these are your fields which you can drop in. So now that every time I create a new blog post, let's click back here, I have all these content areas to populate. I can add a file, I can decide if it's featured or not, and I can change the name and so on. So now if I click into any other blog post, all of those new fields I've added have come into all of the blog posts. So we'll exit that. So this content can then be pulled into designs. So if I head back here to my homepage, you can see here on the left hand side under pages I have blog. So if I click on blog itself, which is a little drop down, I'm clicking on the parent blog, you can see this gives us a list of those blog posts we saw. So this is the title, and if we scroll down under text you can see content, and that is pulling the title. There we go. So if I click directly on here, I can go and edit it. And then you can see a live update here. If I hit the plus icon, I can change the variable from the title. I could also show the slug. I don't know why I would want to, but you can show the slug, so you can change what content appears on this blog listing page just by using these variables. Again, variable means something you can change. And then underneath this blog parent file, I have this. So this is our CMS icon. Click in here and you can see this is essentially what a blog post would look like. So we go into depth into the CMS in a different video, but you can see this is our blog post, and each of these elements is pulling through one of those fields that we set in our CMS. So this is pulling the title, here's that image we spoke about. You can see the fill is pulling the image, and this would be the content from the WYSIWYG editor. So that is your CMS. We'll head back to this insert icon, and we will jump to the elements section, possibly the most fun section of the entirety of Framer. Before I do this, let's jump back to our homepage so we have a blank canvas. So elements allow us to drop in all these funky kind of customizable elements that Framer gives us. Things like countdowns, things like the ability to drop in videos either uploaded from your computer or linked directly from YouTube or Vimeo. You can add in Lottie files or .lottie files, which are animated files, so it allows you to add little animations. You can add in audio files and so on. And then we have forms. We have a whole video on forms, but forms allow you to obviously create forms of your choice, whether you're collecting data, whether you're allowing your users to submit a question. You can customize these forms, you can delete the fields, you can add new fields, and most importantly, you can link the forms to be sent to your email, to Google Sheets, or to another webhook. Continuing on forms, we also have particular email sign-up forms, so MailChimp, we have a whole video on this as well, FormSpark, and then there's also embeds, so Calendly links to a calendar, Intercom for customer support, Typeform for quizzes and questionnaires, and HubSpot for a variety of CRM-related actions. And then jumping through these quite quickly, we have icons, so icon kits. So you might be familiar with feather icons. When we drop in a feather icon, or whatever icon you choose, you can choose from a list of icon types and flick between the feather icons and all their options quite quickly. You can change the color. You can do everything from your right hand panel, which we'll look at in a sec. So there's a few icon kits there for you. And then we have interactive. So these are things like tickers, which are kind of on rotation carousels that loop. We have slideshows, we have carousels of images, we have a cookie banner, we have a search function, which is really, really helpful if you're kind of using a blog style. And then under social, we have ways to embed feeds, embed maps, embed your Trustpilot reviews. And then lastly, we have utility. Again, more ways to embed things. So we have a direct embed, which will allow you to embed the website or widget directly. So you can come into the properties panel and paste in the URL or the HTML for this embed. Then we have some other things. We have booking things, so Open Table is for restaurants, the forks also for restaurants, events for events, and we also have Lemon Squeezy for buying digital products and Gumroad. So there's loads of things going on here, so take your time to kind of click through this and see what's happening. And then we spoke about stacks, but ways to directly add structure to your site are through rows, columns, and grids under this kind of modular icon here. So if we head over to this theme, you can see here this is a stack. If I were to add a new stack, rows are stacks which are pre-organized into vertical arrangement, and columns are pre-organized into horizontal arrangement. So this would be a column, so I could add this in, added a column, and you can see here that this is a stack and it is arranged, distributed horizontally. And I can put content into here. I can remove this background color. I can add, then I can go ahead and click on my text icon and I can add text. And then I can start to build up the content that I have in my column. So you can see how you could easily have text on the left and images on the right. And then anything I'm editing, any element I click on, I kind of tend to move away from the left-hand panel and focus on the right-hand panel. And there's loads of kind of expandable properties which I can go in and edit, from positions, from the size, layouts. So that applies if I wanted to apply even a stack to this frame within a stack, I can do that. I can add effects which allow you to add animations, I can add overlays, which are great for kind of drop downs. Cursors, I can change what cursor the user sees when they're kind of hovering over this. I can change the style, so this is probably what you're going to use a lot of, the style. This will apply a fill color to my frame. I can add border radius, border lines itself, and then there's a few others from accessibility to overriding with code and then exporting. So loads of flexibility when it comes to stacks and when it comes to styling stacks. So if I wanted to style the text, I would do the same thing. I would click on the layer itself, scroll down to color and start changing this. I can change my fonts and so on. So those are the core things you need to know when coming to Framer. You start by building your structure and then end by dropping in your content and filling in images and styling your text, and maybe you'll make it into an asset so you can reuse this across different pages. So it's super flexible. You can see that it's very much in the same language that Figma is. So if you're using Figma, you can see that this is a nice kind of follow on from that. So we have loads of videos jumping into the details of stacks, of forms, of using images, using videos, and loads more on our channel. But that is just a kind of high level view on Framer and coming into Framer and what to expect and what to use first off. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. Otherwise, that is Framer in under 25 minutes, and it is under 25 minutes, and I will see you very soon in the next video. Thanks so much. Bye.